Facebook and on Vimeo, on Vimeo and on YouTube. This is the Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community. And we're excited for today's show. It is called Bridging the Gap. And we have Kyle, who is an apprentice hopeful, who is going to be interviewing Good Time Charlie. So this is going to be pretty fun to cross the generations. So this is, like I was saying before, this is the Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community. Please let us know in the chat room where you're beaming in from so that we know that it's working. If you know any tattoo collectors or tattoo artists that would be interested in the show, then definitely give them a tag. And nearly every tattooer should be interested in this show. So Guy Aitchison's community is where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are all encouraged to join into these live streams, to check out our real world events, basically to share with each other, to inspire each other, and ultimately create better art and tattoos together. We're beaming out nearly every day on the network, and with your help, it's pretty much a network of quality tattoo shows like we would want to see on the TV. Okay, so I talked already about the YouTube and the Facebook. We are also in the Apple podcast, and after today's episode, we're definitely going to start updating that again. We were done with the first season. Now we're ready to gear up for the next run. But you could find that on Spotify and the Apple and Amazon, all the places where you would find podcasts. You'll find audio versions of this. You also can find the Reinventing the Tattoo app in either of the app stores, but you really always can find the latest information at www.reinventingthetattoo.com. Okay. As I said, if you're just joining or you just joined and you missed my previous plug, let us know where you're beaming in from in the chat room, and then share this around before we get started. It'll be about a minute or two, and then we're going to start the interview with Good Time Charlie. Okay, so yeah, we have so many of these shows. We are actually beaming them out 24/7. If you go to reinventing247.com, then you'll have, I believe, 5 channels running at any given time, including one that's always in Spanish, which is pretty cool. We have art jams and whatnot, painting classes, all sorts of interviews like this. Other things that we have on the Reinventing 24/7 or on these weekly shows are Reinventing drawing groups. So let's see, every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we have the Reinventing drawing group live with Jason Leeser at, oh shit, I got to change my script here. It's not 9 p.m. weekly on Sundays. We used to do the Tattoo Weekly on Sunday nights. We are now doing the Tattoo Weekly on Mondays at 11 o'clock. We have the early bird drawing groups Monday morning at 9 a.m. So we get to start off wicked early. These times are all Eastern Standard. Let's see, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. There's a drawing group with Ricardo Sturvanot. Wednesdays at 12 noon is the Tattoo Now show that I host. Thursdays at 10 a.m. there's a subscribers drawing group with Kier, where all skill levels are encouraged, including apprentices. And then Thursdays at noon for well over a year now has been the Tattoo Collecting Podcast with Fawn Baker and Jordan Ruckus, and a variety of tattoo collecting characters, often tattoo artists, but often just collectors. It's pretty awesome. Let's see what we've got coming up is, let's see, next on the list before we get started are a couple ways to support the show here. We have real world events coming up next year, depending on how, the health concerns are, but this is what the schedule we have for 2022, I think, 2022. February 5th and 6th will be Reinventing Tattoo Live from Red Tree / True Tubes in Columbus, Ohio. There's going to be art jam seminars. We have more info coming. Let's see, Jesse Smith is going to be there, Nick Mitchell, Jillian Marie. There's a couple other artists that are confirming as we speak. There'll be a little bit of tattooing, a little bit of teaching. Nice little small event there at the warehouse. April 11th to the 14th is the first Inspiring Tours. It's happening in New Hampshire. Sean Barber and Nick Baxter are the mentors. It filled up quick, almost less than 2 days. It was like 50 hours, 52 hours, and the spots filled up. There's only 5 to 10 for each of these tours. So if you go straight to inspiring.tours, that's the actual website. It's not a .com, it's a .tours. Then you can sign up for the waiting list. I'm thinking about maybe scheduling one in New Mexico in March. If you're interested in doing something like a cool bodysuit layout or 3-day intensive in New Mexico, maybe. Anyways, that's just maybe just a pipe dream. But anyways, inspiring.tours, get on the wait list. May 20th to 22nd is Hill City, Columbus. July 8th to the 10th is the Rock River Tattoo Art Expo outside of Columbus, Ohio. Excuse me. The Rock River Art Expo is outside of Chicago, Illinois. Hell City is in Columbus. July 29th to the 31st, Rubber City Tattoo Invitational in Akron, Ohio, hosted by Tony Urbanik, a great machine builder. And then I'm hosting a show in October 20th to the 23rd. Currently the Paradise Tattoo Gathering in all its glory, but maybe we just do a BYOB. It is really tough to tell what we're doing for events these days in real life, which leads us to all the things that we're doing virtually. Okay. Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. One last chance to share this around before we get started. Thank you to our sponsors. We have Reinventing. If you go to www.reinventingthetattoo, Guy Aitchison has his course, and as well as Monday exercises. It's like kind of going to the art dojo every week on Mondays at 9 o'clock. Artists all get together with Guy. They go over exercises or in groups of exercises. They get critiqued, and then they'll zoom in. So you can zoom in with Guy if you want to. A lot of tattoo shops are starting to do this together, and we do have shop packages. So reinventingthetattoo.com. Let's see, Interstate Inc. LA. They are a tattoo studio out in Los Angeles area. You might know Church. He does some really awesome realistic sneakers. The shop is all clean and sober and very supportive of that lifestyle. So if you are looking to be in a place that's supportive of a clean and sober lifestyle, check it out in LA. They have all sorts of support out there for you or for your friends that need it. At Interstate Inc. LA, Raw Pigments, rawpigments.co is an ink company. You can get samples. Actually, if you go to reinventing247.com and then scroll down, if you type in your tattoo studio address and information, then you can get samples from Raw Pigments. It's awesome. And then you don't even have to listen to us talk about it. You just try it out. WorldTattooEvents.com is the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events that exists. And I joke, I say this because 10 years ago, I tried to copy it. And after a day and a half, I was like, there's no way I can keep up. Alex is amazing. He has all of the right information. And these days, yeah, you definitely want to keep up on it. Tattoo Now, that is my website development and CRM, all sorts of computer techie stuff. Yeah, actually, if you go to tattoonow.com/services, I have the full menu there of everything. Definitely taking on new clients. And then last but not least, and in fact, for this first, we talked about him a little bit. Guy Aitchison is the founder of Reinventing. He helps make all of this happen, and you should head straight to guyaitchison.com. Check out his artwork, his prints for sale. He's got some machines. He's got the Biomech Encyclopedia. You can still actually buy the Biomech Encyclopedia in time to ship it for the holidays today. It would be like the last day. So anyways, that I believe is what we've got going. Definitely want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is going to be a great show with Kyle hosting the Bridging the Gap. If you're interested in sponsoring or hosting, then let us know. Management at reinventingthetattoo.com and 413-585-9134. Okay, welcome Kyle and good time Charlie. This is exciting. I'm very happy to get this series started. So basically, I'm gonna pass it off to Kyle. Kyle, thanks for jumping in, and for all of the people that are shy or worried about getting out there. Kyle is an apprentice hopeful, and this is one of his very first interviews with Good Time Charlie. So I'm going to hop out here. Take it away, Kyle.
All right, great. Thanks, Gabe. How are you doing, Charlie?
I'm doing great, thanks. Hope you are.
Yes, I am as well, yes. So my big thing here is just, I want to hear about your stories and, how you got your start and, just kind of things that you could share with other people who are looking to start off their tattoo journey.
Sorry, Kyle. I had my camera spotlighted, so you'll just have to restart that intro without me being there on the screen.
Okay. Are we good now?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, the whole point of this here is just to kind of hear about your stories about, when you started doing tattooing and, the ways that you got through it and what you can share with the newer generation of people trying to get into it.
Well, for myself, I was only exposed to tattoos of the homemade style, hand poke tattoos. Where I lived, it was against a lot of tattoo in the city limits. And there was no, you couldn't get licensed there. And so there was nobody to learn from professionally at all. But I figured that my great grandmother was a real well-known seamstress in town, and she did work for all the rich people around. So she had every kind of needle you could think of, and because she did everything from fine lace to drapes, and so she had everything. So anyway, I used to get needles from her, and I would use a single pretty bold needle, and but for cover-ups and so forth, to block something out, I had multiple needles on popsicle sticks. And so that's how I did for almost 5 years out of my car. I started when I was 15 years old. That I had my third car by then. I got my first one when I was 12 years old, and I lived in Texas where nobody cared, about a license. So anyway, I had my third car, a 46 Chevy, when I was 15, and that's what I started tattooing out of. And I drew all my headliner was filled up with drawings. Guys would point at things and say, I like that kind of cross or that kind of a banner and so forth. And then I also had 3 scrapbooks that were composition books that I had drawings in that people could choose from, different kinds of crowns and various things that they would like, and but I could draw anything. And so that's how I started 5 years working out of my car before I came to California. And when I got here, I got tattooed in the Navy. I had joined the Navy, but they kicked me out pretty quick after 8 months. But while I was in there, I tattooed 13 tattoos on one guy behind the lockers on Sunday, and while I was in boot camp, and among others as well. But so anyway, I had just a knack for tattooing, and when I got to California, I was very dismayed at what I was just. Even though I got tattooed at a few places in San Diego, my first professional tattoo, was by Tahiti Felix Lynch in San Diego, and was an anchor, which I still have. And but I was tattooed by various individuals around there, including Painless Nell and her sister, who I guess it was her cousin or sister. They had a wooden leg, and one of them outlined me, and the other one's shaded it in. So it was a bucket shop, where you got tattooed with a bucket full of Listerine water with the same sponge rubbed you down, and the same straight razor shaved you, and so forth. And so anyway, even though I got a few tattoos in San Diego, I still was kind of just realized that they traced everything. They used stencils, and I didn't know anything about stencils. So that was an amazing thing to me, that they had to use those. And I thought, well, if they can't draw, why are they tattooing? I don't understand that. And so it was a new world for me. And I thought they were quite carny about it as well. Kind of treated it pretty, I don't know, kind of like a flim flam man kind of a deal, where they just give you the bum's rush, give you the max. I mean, they take it, they're like the pirate mentality,
Right.
give all, take all you can and give nothing back, and so it was real. It was just seemed to me like it was a flim flam kind of a profession to some degree. I thought, well, if they can't draw and they have this real carny attitude, I mean, I saw this one gal put a virgin on a guy's back and giggle about making it cross-eyed, you know? And I thought, well, that's just bullshit right there. I want to do people right, you know? This ain't no joke, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to give people good art. And I didn't ever understand that mentality of just getting over on people. So that was a turnoff for me as well. But then as what attracted me to the industry, I think, was just the impact that Flash made. Just seeing all these different designs from different minds that drew these things. And so the Flash had an impact on me, even though I didn't ever really care about Flash. In fact, the only professional commercial Flash I ever made for sale to anybody was my big sheet, the Something for Everybody. And the only reason I did that was because back in the day, if you drew Flash, people would just bootleg it immediately and start, you know, selling it to other people. And so I thought, well, that's just bullshit. They're not going to ever bootleg my design, my Flash. This is the only contribution I'm going to make to the industry for commercial Flash. And if they, you know, can top this, well, that'll be quite the task. But anyway, so like I said, it was hard for me to even kind of get serious about professional tattooing because of they use color, and I wasn't, even though I got a few with color to begin with, I regretted it because later on when I would ask people if they wanted, how they wanted it in color or black, and they say, oh, color, of course. And I go, well, color doesn't make a tattoo any better.
Yeah.
And they'd say, well, you've got color. And I go, yeah, and I totally regret it too, because people say that, well, you've got color. And I said, yeah, but I wouldn't have it if I could start over again for that very reason, because people mistakenly believe that it's not good art without color. And I said, to me, tattoos in black are better for 3 different reasons. And first, they heal faster. Secondly, they have that lasting power. They're always going to be there. And there's besides the healing and the lasting power, there's a third reason. Oh, they're usually cheaper. Not in every case though, but so there's 3 good reasons right there. I think to have them in black. And so anyway, that's just another thing that in my professional opinion makes a tattoo better from my own personal standpoint. You know, I just was more attracted to the black and the various tones that you could create with, you know, the proper shading and so forth. So anyway, I eventually went to the Pike, and I was determined to get more answers, because in spite of the fact that I had been tattooed by many different tattoo individuals at the Pike and in San Diego. In Long Beach at the Pike, I was tattooed by Bert Grimm and Fred Thorson and Don Nolan and Bob Heyman and Lou Lewis. And there was quite a few different individuals that tattooed me there. But in spite of the fact that I got tattooed multiple times, they would never really share with me any of the things I wanted to know. And for instance, I just couldn't believe that some of these guys used it strictly as a hobby. I thought, well, is this a hobby? Or I'm not going to stay here all weekend with binoculars and watch these guys to see how, if this is a full-time job or if it's a part-time thing or a seasonal thing or and so every time I'd start getting kind of personal about that, they'd all just give me the cold shoulder. So nobody would share anything with you, and except a good tattoo, maybe,
Yeah.
But anyway, I went to the Pike determined to get answers. And when I walked in one shop, I asked this guy something, and he said, "Well, who wants to know?" And I said, "I do." And he says, "And why are you interested?" And I says, "Well, I know how to tattoo, but nobody wants to tell me anything about the, making a living off of this, And so, because I tattooed, but I still tattooed locally, but it was all, I still tattooed by hand.
Right.
And so, around Los Angeles there. And so, so I told the guy, I said, "I know how to tattoo, but nobody will give me straight answers." So this guy came out of the back room, Jimbo Laporte, and he said he was half owner of that shop, West Coast Tattoo on the Pike in Long Beach. And he said, "So you know how to tattoo, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, you take some skin down to 5th and Main on Tuesday night at 5 o'clock and we'll see what you got." So I took one of my friends that I tattooed, him and his brother, several times. I said, "Hey man, those guys want to see what I can do with machines downtown." And so we went down there, and when we walked in the shop, the only guy in the building was Zeke Owen. And he said, "Hey man, you must be Charlie. They said you were coming." And I go, "Yeah." He said, "Well, here's the setup, and I'm going to go get a hamburger and a cup of coffee, and I'll be back." And I said, "Okay." So I did some mushrooms on my friend's leg, and I said, "Wow, but I don't know if you want any of this color or not." He said, "Oh, well, yeah, I'll take some." So I put some color on there, and I think I did the name, the words, I'm sure, hongos sagrados, with sacred mushrooms, and in Spanish. Anyway, I cleaned him up, and just then Zeke walked back in, and he said, "Wow, guy's been tattooing for 10 years, don't tattoo like that even." And he says, "I knew you had it when you walked through the door." And I go, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, and you're the first guy I've ever let use my machines." And so I thought, wow, that's quite something. And so from then on, that I was in the professional world of tattoos. And that was in Skid Row in Los Angeles at 5th and Main. And I was there several months, and then they transferred me back to the Pike where I had originally went, and they had sent me downtown. So I worked there several years, and decided that, well, one thing, I went there because Zeke had told me, he says, "It's obvious you know how to tattoo, man." But he says, and the fact that you're self-taught is pretty amazing. He says, but you would do well, you would do yourself a service to work with other people for a couple of years or something. Because I told him, I said, if I can, once I figure these machines out, I'm going to open my own place. And he said, "Well, you want to work with other people for a little bit to just pick up some technical tips from them and things you can learn from others." And I said, "Okay, I'll do that." So that's why I stayed there at the Pike for a couple of years, or a little more actually. But I knew I was going to East Los Angeles even then, because I realized that was tattoo heaven as far as I was concerned, because of the Mexican community, and I knew, and I was very familiar with all the subject matter because I'm married to a Chicana, born in East LA, and lived around there, hung around there for several years. And so I was hip to the Chicano lowrider lifestyle, and knew that would be a good place to start. And then because they like the penitentiary style tattooing with the thin lines and so forth, I thought, well, you got to give them what the haircut they want, really, no matter what shop you're in, And so when they said, well, can you guys do the real fine lines? And we said, well, yeah. And so I figured that out real quick, how to convert a 3 into a single by just pulling one needle out further and letting the other 2 be the support for that fine little thing that would wiggle around on its own on a needle bar. But so that's what I did with number 12 needles. And so right away, who knew it would become a worldwide phenomenon, the fine line black and gray tattooing, but it did. And but after a couple of years, I started just using a single number 10 on the needle bar because it would support itself quite well, and just a little bit thicker line, but still a nice, clean, thin line. So I used a number 10 colonial needle till I retired as a single. And so in Los Angeles there, that's what we did. We just catered to the lowrider lifestyle. And that was, to me, I guess, what I had been looking for, I guess, since I was a kid, was of course, I was tattooing Mexicans when I was a kid even. And I even, at times I even think in Spanish because I've just been around Mexicans most of my life to some degree. And so anyway, East Los Angeles was for me, I guess my dream come true, but after a couple or 3 years of having the shop there, I decided that I wanted to cross culture my kids and move back to Kansas where my roots were. And I hadn't been there since I was 20 years old. So I did go back there for 10 years and pioneered that whole area because nobody tattooed around there because it was illegal.
Right.
So I just went to the county and opened up, and first I consulted the state attorney even and went on down to the county level. And I thought, well, I'll just stay outside of Wichita. Who cares? Pretty soon I had them coming from all over Kansas and Oklahoma and all the surrounding places because it was illegal elsewhere. So I did quite well there too. But then I came back to California because my wife wanted to move back here because her friend had moved here. And so I said, well, you follow me around wherever I wanted to go. So you pick, that's okay with me. And so we came to Modesto where we are now. I've been here 33 years, but I just officially closed my shop almost 2 years ago in February, April, May. And I have no regrets because I pioneered this whole valley. When I came here, you had to drive 100 miles any direction to get a professional tattoo. And so now there's 80 different tattoo operations surrounding me in my own community.
Yeah.
So everybody's a tattooer now. It seemed like the whole world is not satisfied liking tattoos or wearing tattoos. They all want to put them on. And so I thought, well, what am I even doing here, anymore? If everybody, everywhere you look, they're all tattooers. Well, I guess I've just outlived the whole thing. I don't even quite understand the sensation of, it being, I love them and liked applying them, designing them and wearing them and all that. but I don't understand that the whole world can be a tattooer. And so anyway, I'm glad I was in it when I was in it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And and I actually pioneered 3 areas of this country in the process, not realizing what an impact I would have on the industry, because I was just a kid that loved tattoos, you know. And
Right.
as I guess everyone that is now entering the business is, you know, as well. They must love them, or if they go to that degree. But there's plenty of people in the business that should not be in the business, in my opinion, that are in it for all the wrong reasons, and have no don't have the right scruples or morals or ethics even to be in it.
Right. Exactly.
So that's a whole subject that in and of itself, is the ethics and the morals in this business, because it's not, you know, to me, it was never about skinning another cat. You know, it was about giving them a reason to come back.
Mhm.
Because I think if you treat them right, then they might feed you for a lifetime. You know,
Yeah. Exactly.
that even these guys that have the opinion, oh, you can have that one, or I'm not. Who cares about that little cartoon or something? Well, that's that guy's first. That's his beginning. And if you treat him right, and he loves it, and like I said, he might support you for 30 years, which I've seen happen to me. So I've had individuals that have supported me for 30 years, just because of being nice to them, and, you know, putting on a slick tattoo. Anyway, I don't know how to elaborate beyond very much on my own personal growth. You know, I mean, I guess I did grow through the years, obviously, but I can't really. It's like watching grass grow or watching paint dry. I can't. You know, it was just developed over time.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah. Anyway, I'm still thankful that I'm part of it. But you know, I spoke recently to a group of 70 guys, tattooers in Spokane, Washington, and I was discussing the fact that you know, the good book says we're commanded to love each other, and here was a group of 70 tattooers, all from the same community, that had never spoken to each other, a lot of them, and had nothing but bad things to say about each other, probably, or heard rumors or talked smack on them, you know. And here they were all together in one room, and I was telling them about that, you know, that you know, I remember when I used to think, or back in the day when anybody walked in your shop, and they'd get mad dog by everybody in there that had, if you had full arm tattoos, and they thought you were just checking them out to open it, you know, checking out your operation so they could see what was possible. And so that was back in the day. It was always like that. And they just stare each other down, you know, wonder.
Right. Yeah. Stealing the business from them.
Yeah. And so, but I says, you know, I'm commanded to love them all, but I don't necessarily like them all, but I bear none of them ill will, that's for sure. And so when it was all over, there was no arguments or fights or anything. And it turned out just great with all the camaraderie and so forth in the community. And so that's part of it as well, is I realized at that point we had that many tattooers from one town all together, and they were all respectful of each other. I thought, well, this is total evidence that I guess there's not such a thing as too many tattooers, because obviously they were all making a living, and they're all doing something that's involved in the current day activities for sure, developing and watching the progress or deep progress, some might think, in the industry. But I said, so it's obvious to me that there's enough to go around. I mean, I used to think, how can everybody be tattooers? We're just trading money with each other. I mean, what's that all about, But I realize now that there is enough to go around because there's millions of recipients and obviously probably a few 100,000 tattooers, maybe, or multiple thousands for sure.
Yeah.
And well, my assistant told me that just in San Diego County, San Diego City alone, there are 128 shops.
Oh, wow.
And so that's just within the city limits. So there's all kinds of suburbs that have them too as well. So
Yeah.
it's just everywhere you go, it's just that way anymore. And I remember laughing. I've got a grandson that's now 26 years old, and no, 28 years old, I guess. No, let's see. Well, he's in his 20s, let's say, for sure. And when he was a baby, me and my wife and my daughter were going cross country in a car, and we were in the middle of Ohio in corn country, or Iowa, I guess. But it was just nothing but cornfields forever, mile after mile after mile, and or wheat, and so I told my family there, I says, we better stop somewhere and get something to eat before we go much farther, because we don't know how late anything's going to be open. And so I said, oh, there's a glow down the road there. It looks like there might be a little town there. So my daughter says, I'm going to look for the tattoo and body piercing shop. And I said, are you kidding me? And sure enough, there was one intersection in town, and there was a tattoo and body piercing shop in there. And right in the middle, there was no development for miles anyway.
Right.
And so we laughed about it. And I said, my God, I can see where this is going if we've got them out in the middle of cornfields, that you miles from any civilization. Well, I can see where this is all headed. And
right, exactly.
look what happened. Well, in fact, 35 years ago, before I came to Modesto, I wouldn't even hire my own cousin's kid in Kansas even though he was a freak on tattoos, I said, no, there's too many on the bus already. And this is 35 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he says, what do you mean? I said, the bus is full. We don't need any more tattooers. Because at that point in time, I could look at your arms and tell you where you were from and who did your tattoos.
Right.
Because there were so few tattooers in America that you just recognize all the styles. And anyway, well, now it's no longer a bus. It's a never-ending train. They just keep adding more cars to it. And so I told him, I said, if this continues, I said, just think about this. I said, there's probably only, that I know of, maybe 300 or maybe 350 professional tattooers in all of America. And a dozen here and a dozen there in the big cities, And I said, so just think, if every one of us hired somebody today, that would double the population of tattooers, and somebody would be missing hamburgers eventually. And I says, but if it does continue, then someday we'll all be flipping burgers or tattooing. And look at what happened exactly.
Yeah.
It came to pass. I could see it 35 years ago. And now it's just, look, look at it.
It's like a
They're
whole
all
new world.
this is tattooing. So anyway, there's not too much I can say, I guess, other than the fact that I've seen it all from going to deciding whether you like coils or whether you like or if you like so many types of machines anymore. Now they even got cordless,
Yeah.
so there's been so much development between rotaries and coils and all the technology that I think every day different people enter the business and they've all got different ideas about how to improve on something or make it better or different or whatever. And so you'll never stop all that ingenuity, because that's what attracts people to this business. Also, I think is the challenges of something so simple as a doorbell being made into
Yeah.
a piece of artistic equipment, and so I think that's pretty that'll never probably stop. I mean, I don't know where you go from rotaries with no cord to,
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see what'll happen next.
but people quite often, because I was never the machinist in the business. I just wanted to put good art on people, and if it made noise, I'd put a good tattoo on with it, and so I never was impressed with all the different technological advances, even though guys would stop me at conventions and say, Charlie, I want to show you this, and they'd lead me over and show me something with all kinds of things that would tell different, would read all the tension and so forth. And I thought, I don't give a crap about any of that. I'm glad it works for you, but that's not my thing, man. I'm just into the art, and of course I cared about having a machine that would run, but if it did run, I didn't care about all the individual features involved, and so I was never very impressed with the machinery when I started off. So simple a process that it was a non-fail
Right.
thing, anyway, so the machine aspect of tattooing, there's guys obviously that make a living doing nothing but building machines, and more power to them if that's their forte, I guess. I mean, you got to have a dependable machine, and some of them think theirs is better than others, so more power to them, I guess.
Right.
And so I'm just doing all the talking here. I don't know what you you want.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got a couple questions for you still as well.
Okay.
Because you've been all over the US, bringing the tattooing to all different areas. What was like probably one of the hardest things that you've had to go through, to make it happen and did what you did?
Well, I'm not real sure there was anything hard about any of it, except getting somebody to give me a break,
Yeah.
that was it, because like I went through it there with you, it was nobody wanted to share anything about the business.
Right.
And so to me, that was the hardest thing, just breaking through that wall of silence. So, some guys I did learn from one guy. He said, yeah, I spend summers in Hawaii and winters over here. in Long Beach, and or summers in Long Beach and winters in Hawaii, I guess it was. But that's all he would tell me. He lived in 2 different spots and so forth. And so, I'd say that was the hardest thing, just to get information, period.
Mhm.
And so now anymore, it's not a challenge for anybody who wants to enter tattooing. There's no secrets no more. There's nothing that you even have to learn, like we had to make our own needles
Right.
and,
right.
Do your own machine work, if there was any. Well, you were your own creator in many different ways, because you had to, well, I knew guys that worked for me that they would just designate a whole day to soldering needles. They would designate a certain day of the week, and that's all they would do for hours, but they would build up enough to last for quite a while. And so that was just another, and then washing tubes. We had metal tubes in those days. And so you had to scrub tubes. And if you had a big stockpile of them, that was a backbreaking job, standing at the sink and washing these things. So anymore, all of that has changed now. There is none of that. Everything's throwaway. So there's no sterilization anymore, for God's sake, because everything is disposable. So, we had to designate time, lots of time, to scrubbing tubes and soldering needles and sterilization, packaging things up. And, it's a whole different world now. You guys don't realize just what a piece of cake it is. I think it's all, well, there's no true apprenticeships in the real sense of the word, in my opinion, because anybody can be self-taught now and make it. Anybody can buy equipment. Anybody can learn through videos, books, etc., or probably their neighbor about tattooing. Anybody that's interested in it, it's all just laid out for you. A big fat welcome mat.
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of the basic techniques are all out there. I think a lot of it though is like, these days it's like learning the business of it and kind of that side of it. That's the stuff that you can't necessarily easily get.
Yeah, I'll comment on that. I remember Dennis Wire told me, he says, when he apprenticed with Cliff Raven, he said, I didn't learn a damn thing about tattooing, but what I learned from that man was how to be a businessman. And so, see, there you go. That a lot of tattooers fail in that respect. They're not good managers, or they're not. They don't even know how to even price things sensibly.
Yeah, because if you can't price it out right, then how are you going to make a living off of it?
Yeah, so it's really that is part of it. And that goes back to learning. You'll learn something from everybody you worked with, like Zeke told me, And so just like Dennis says, I didn't learn nothing about tattooing, but I learned how to be a businessman, how to make tattooing a business. So there you go. You're going to learn from anybody you're exposed to, because iron sharpens iron. And there you go. It's a true saying.
Right.
Benefit from each other's presence and knowledge and education, etc. Yeah.
So I also know that you had an apprentice for a while as well, Jack, right? Jack.
Yeah.
Reedy?
Yeah. He, when I worked at the Pike, I encountered him. Him and his friend came in, and Jack had drawn a design on this guy's arm, a little Nazi lowrider. And it was just an outline with a ballpoint pen. And they said, will you tattoo this? And I said, why not? And they said, and will you just do it in black? And I go, yeah, because that's even better. And they looked at each other and smiled. And they said, well, we've been to 2 other shops and they don't want to do it just black. And I said, well, why wouldn't they? That's better anyway, and it's cheaper. And so that's how I got turned on to him, because he started bringing guys to me. He would draw things on them and then bring them in there. And he had a homemade rig that had broke, and it was shocking him, and he didn't like it. So he started bringing them to me because he was impressed with my abilities. And so anyway, eventually I was cleaning up after him and his friend left, and I looked at the cardboard that he left laying on the chair, which was pretty good size piece of cardboard off of an old carton, I guess. And he had taken a ballpoint pen and he drew all over it while he was waiting on his friend. And he had, like, I don't know, several styles of cholo writing and some serious script and a lot of cartooning and a little taste of seriousness on one side. And I thought, wow, this cat's really got talent, I think, and he's got something to offer the world. So I told him the next time I saw him, I said, if you give me your mama or your grandma's phone number, someone who will always know where you are when the day is right, I'll break you in. And he said, really? And I go, yeah. But if you ever even ask me once, when are we going to get started? It's off. And he said, okay, man. So he never asked me. And about, maybe a year later, I found the perfect spot. And man, I told him I was going to open in East LA, and he totally agreed that was a good idea. And he said, I've been thinking that myself, for a while now. Well, I had been thinking it for a couple or 3 years for sure, and was determined to do it, but I couldn't find the right spot. And so when I did, though, after about a year of driving every Sunday and checking out the boulevard, I finally found the right spot. And he ended up, I called him up and he said, perfect timing, man. And so that was the beginning of his history, and he's made an impact on the world ever since, and made me proud, that's for sure. And so I had him as my first apprentice, and then I only had 2 others besides my kids, and I have 3 kids, and all of them learned to tattoo, but only one of them has remained in the business. And so I actually had, I guess what one would say, in all my 66 years of tattooing, I've had 6 people I've taught anything about tattoos, and 3 of them were my own family. And the other 2 were Jack Rudy. The other 2 besides Jack were Creeper, whose real name was Mike Espinosa, and he worked for me in East LA there. And then my son-in-law, Trevor Dalton. So those were the only 3 that I taught anything. And I had none of them scrubbing toilets and all that bullshit that old timers talk about.
Right.
None of them did that. I didn't have him. I thought, they're not learning to be janitors, for God's sake.
Exactly,
they're learning
yeah.
a craft. And I remember when I started my my son-in-law at the time, I had another guy working there who says, well, Charlie, this is just bullshit. You're letting this guy tattoo. And he says, as an apprentice at this point in time, he says, when I was in his stage of the game, I had to go out and do crimes. And I said, well, I'm not teaching him to be a criminal. trying to teach him to be a good craftsman, you know?
Right, exactly. You got to teach them the craft if you want them to be a part of it.
So, yeah, so I didn't have any of that foolishness involved with a lot of so-called apprenticeships, you know? And I never charged any of them money, not one. They were just part of the operation for as long as they were, you know?
Yeah.
They were just contributing to the operation. So, yeah. So that's another thing I've never understood about people that want to constantly apprentice people. And I used to think, well, you're just bringing in people into the business. You're giving them bullets to shoot you right back with. All these locals that you teach to tattoo, they're just going to open up on you. And,
Right.
you know, so I never understood that either, you know, constant apprenticeships, you know, in progress. No, and in fact, I did not one of them. Well, I approached Jack and Creeper both, but and my kids. I approached all of them, but my son-in-law, he's the only one that approached me, and I ran him off for several years before I finally took him on. But I think you should approach the people and recognize their talent and elevate their talent on a personal level because you see the potential. That's how I think it's better than running around showing people your portfolio. And I mean, if people know you or get acquainted with you on a miniature level, maybe even, they can see or understand the potential, I think, that you might present. So I think you just make a better person to represent the industry if you're chosen.
Right. It's all about kind of getting that respect from everyone else, seeing that like you are in it for the right reasons.
Say it again.
It's like, yeah, just trying to make sure that everyone's who's doing it is in it for the right reasons.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because that separates the sheep from the goats right there when you pick them, you know. So yeah, so that's another thing, apprenticeship, that I just find almost a mockery anymore. I mean, I realize there's things that can be taught you, but it's not the old traditional thing. Like I said, a person that wants to learn this business can learn on his own with no help, outside help whatsoever, and plenty of them do. But you still benefit. It would benefit you, just like Zeke said, to work with other people, to glean some kind of something from them, you know.
Right. There's only so much that you can learn on your own.
Yeah. Even though you have a cool operation and lots of clients, and everybody loves you and blah, blah, blah. Nonetheless, it behooves each one of us to, I think, consider the fact that, you know, this is your baby, and you got to rock it, and however you can make it or break it in this business very easily just by it's all a people thing, you know.
Yeah.
And so if you can relate to the guy, and well, you know, like I used to tell him, I've had guys come back and say, well, you know, I wanted to talk to you, Charlie, but I don't have any money today. And I said, well, you don't need money to talk to me, you know. And so then I ended up, you know, over time, I think everybody has to come to the realization that you're actually like a medicine man in this business. If you've got good medicine, they're going to keep coming. And it's not only the good tattoo, but it's the relationship itself. And so that's why people used to say, I don't have any money today. And I tell them, you don't need money to talk to me. And I became their counselor, their babysitter, their, you know,
Right. Yeah.
and their confidant and so forth. And you can't believe some of the things I've been approached, to do or participate in, because they've been watching me and they learned how I was and realized that, like, oh man, I could go on and on with things that are just completely mind blowing that people have asked me to do, because I've studied you and I know how you are, and you're the guy that we need and so forth. And I think it all comes back down to your own personality too, entering the picture, how well you're received. Like I said, if you're a good medicine man, and they're gonna keep coming to you, and maybe it's just on a personal level that they want to discuss, because they respect your opinion, and not that you're God or anything, but that somehow or another they believe in what you're all about, and they trust you to give them the little, relevant advice. And so sometimes I've had to, literally take them home and stuff like that, when they were in no condition to go anywhere. They were so loaded or overdosed or something.
Right.
And I've had to end up driving them home and stuff. And so you're their caretakers in a way too, after
Yeah.
a while. And so people don't realize you become more than just a craftsman and an artist. You become many different things if you're a shop tattooer. Now if you're a traveling Jones that's just all over the world, guest artisting here and there, you never develop all those personal long-term relationship with clients. How well can you know somebody that you tattooed every yearly convention in Berlin or something,
Right.
and
Exactly.
you've been with them 3 hours or 4 hours or 6 hours that day, and then you're not going to develop the types of relationship that you would get when you tattoo somebody every month, or every 3 months or something.
Yeah.
So that's just another aspect of traveling tattooers, that they're escaping all those personal involvements with people, and which isn't, it's just another different lifestyle, and that's another aspect of my life I never did quite get, because back in the day when I would attend whatever conventions there were, I would never tattoo at those conventions, because I worked my butt off in my shop. And so
Right.
I went to those conventions to play. And so I never did understand tattooing away from your own shop. Then all of a sudden, people are just all over the world from shop to shop to shop, and wondering why I wasn't interested in that. Well, wasn't interested in that at all. And so I never did really entertain a lot of guest artists either. I said, no, I think you should stay in your own shop and tattoo. That's what it's all about, in my opinion. And so I did have some foreign guys and other guys work for me that came from different areas, but there was very little real guest artisting, I would say, in my shop, because why would I make room for somebody from somewhere else when my own guys are wanting to make their bread and butter,
Yeah. Exactly.
So I wasn't going to fill the shop up with a bunch of foreigners that, you know, scooped the cream off the top and then danced out the door, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Oh,
yeah, so that was just another thing about guest artisting that I never did quite get. And not to say I did put on a few tattoos outside of my shop, not very many though. Uh, and actually, at one convention, I remember I was leaving in the process of walking out of the lobby, even, and a girl grabs me and says, "So you've got to tattoo my leg? Got all my signatures of my favorite people on there." And I said, "Well, I'm leaving right now." She said, "Well, we can do it right here." And I go, "Are you kidding?" And she had two guys with her, and one of them had a little battery operated number and that he was carrying around, and it was all loaded up and ready to go. And the other guy was carrying the ink, and I said, "Well, okay, show me some leg."
yeah,
And
might as
so
well.
she propped up her leg on a sofa there, and I just dipped it and wrote my name on her leg. So I did that. And then another one told me at a convention, "I've been saving my foot for you because you're the last one I need to collect for my slippers, my tattoo slippers." And so I put my name on her foot there, but it was very rare I ever tattooed at conventions. Although I do have to say, and that was back in the day. Anymore, I'll do little bangers on them, but no epic pieces. Thank you. I did enough of that in my day.
Right.
But I do have to say, I did go to a convention in Houston one time years ago, and I thought, well, that's only so many miles from Wichita when I lived in Kansas, and I thought, and I read who was going to be there, and I thought, oh well, there's nobody that's going to be worth their salt that's going to even be at that convention. There was two guys that putting it on that nobody liked at the time, and I thought, if I go, I'll bet I'll be the only legitimate tattooer there besides these carny get over guys, and so maybe I'll go. So I rented a van and took my sign and a bunch of equipment and stuff down there. And this was so weird because I got set up and back to back, I was on the end of a line of booths, and back to back to me was a guy whose name I don't even know to this day, but I'll thank forever, because as soon as I got set up, some guy walks up and says, well, I got $150 for you for a surprise. And I said, what do you mean? You're going to surprise me with $150? And he says, well, I want a surprise tattoo. And I go, oh yeah. And he said, yeah, he said, I was going to get a tattoo from the guy behind you, but he said, no, you should go get a tattoo from that guy, because he never tattoos publicly like that. And he's a well-known guy, so you should go get a tattoo from him. And he says, and just tell him how much you can spend and tell him to surprise you. And he said, okay. So he said, so here I am. And I said, all right. So I did that. And before I even finished, there was another guy standing there, and he says, can you do $100 surprise for me? And I said, I think so. And so that guy kept sending me business all the time I was there. And I was busy because of some guy I don't even know who kept sending me people. And so that was an amazing thing in and of itself. But that was the only convention back in the day where I ever set up, a whole booth. Anyway, in recent times, I've done a few out here in the Bay Area, but very few. And I've done a couple in Reno and so forth, but I don't really have a full-blown tattoo operation anymore because I've closed my shop. And like I said, I'll tattoo the people at the conventions just with a little GTC. And that's good enough, you know. I
Yeah.
think after all these years, not interested in, laying on my side and standing upside down, trying to
Right.
figure out how to decorate someone's body anymore.
Yeah. Well, can you also tell us a bit about your tattoo heritage project that you got going on?
Yes, I would. In fact, I made a couple notes here about Long Beach is the port of Los Angeles. And in 1959, California had the Navy in San Diego, Long Beach, and San Francisco. So the whole West Coast of California was known for tattooing. But at that time, they said there were 500,000 sailors, 500,000 around the Long Beach area in San Pedro and Terminal Island. And so there was a great history of tattooing in this area. And as you have witnessed, not only military, but merchant marines as well coming up from South America. So I witnessed all of that back when I was working at the Pike. You had, like I said, merchant mariners as well as military sailors. And with tattooing as popular as it has become worldwide, it only makes sense to celebrate the sensation by giving tattooing a location to not only showcase local SoCal tattoo artists, but hopefully tattooers worldwide as well as national. This would benefit the community as a tourist attraction and also increase the awareness of Carey's shop, which is the old Burt Grimm's oldest shop, second oldest shop in America, 1902, I think. I believe it's been a tattoo shop real early in the century. And also Tricia Allen's Polynesian Museum there, which is quite representative of that genre. And last of all, I'm looking forward to the day when we have a nationally recognized tattoo museum. It's not only, like I said, the headquarters for many well-known tattooers through the years, but it's the tourist attraction it's known for lots of other things. And right now they're redeveloping whole areas of the city, trying to bring back like art centers and so forth. And so we've met with the city already. Just yesterday, in fact, we had a meeting with several board people that were considered, well, some on the board and some are outsiders that are economic development people and real estate people connected with the city of Long Beach, and construction people too. And so we're having this big powwow about how to really get rolling. And so the mayor of Long Beach even said, well, I really like this project. Let's get it going. And so let's get it done, he said. And so they're trying to help us find the right location, even to really spotlight the industry, on a big basis. And we don't want there's totally, I suspect, possibly hundreds now of little museum type operations around local tattoo shops, but there's no place nationally known as the place to go for tattoo museum history.
Right.
And so we want to have that. And I think we can. Come on, look how many tattooers are in the world now. And if ever tattooer that ever hears my voice, I mean, everyone that hears my voice, I don't know how many that would be, but if they all just sent, well, if every tattooer in the world sent $10, there'd be no problem having a magnificent,
Yeah.
operation. But we're gonna get a GoFundMe or a fundraiser of some sort established again after the first of the year. We started one that there was a lot of confusion about handling of the money, and I don't want any question about that. It's a nonprofit organization, and I want it to be structured properly. So we're gonna reestablish something after the holidays is over, and we'll publish it so people will know how to contribute and so forth. But it should be I believe representative of most all of America. I mean, everybody in the U.S. can benefit from this as a destination for a holiday or something, and it's really going to be more than just a on-site exhibit type thing, because we're gonna have a thing called docu-series that documents there'll be anything and everything that could be I guess benefited from watching these, because it's going to be people, I guess, like you that are interviewing people that they have an interest or respect for, and maybe sometimes their own tutors in the business. They want to tell their story and so forth, but it could be just something like a known tattooer that knows 30 real funny stories, even that are tattoo related. So it's going to be a great series that will be never ending. So supposedly, with the thousands of tattooers that are out there, and they've all got different stories. So yeah, and like you're doing right now, you're doing the same thing. That will be another part of the museum. Visitors coming and going can sit down in a private room and watch it, push a button and watch any tattooers tell a story or present a little, their own little presentation on film or by some kind of equipment. I don't know all about it, but it could be quite educational as well as informational on many different levels. And I just really want to have as complete an understanding about tattooing as we can. There's I guess tattoo anthropologists and so forth we can talk to about some of the early designs on some of the, not just American Indians, but primitive man, and how it could have occurred, what tools might have been used and so forth, and right on up to, the not only the past, but looking into the future with tattooing. So I think that's another aspect of it too, that it can be a never-ending thing, an ongoing deal. And I envision really more than just the museum itself. Of course, we want to have a restaurant there and so forth as well for social activity and further fundraising to support the museum. And we want professional people. We've got professional museum people already that we've worked with in Los Angeles there at the Natural History Museum that are interested in the project as well. And so, and we did an exhibit in Long Beach before, and at MOLA, the Museum of Latin American Art. And so we've had a little bit of experience now with museum people, and so some of them are willing to work with us and want it to happen, actually. And so three of the staff from the Museum of Natural History, after the exhibit that we did there that lasted, I don't know, 3 months or 6 months sometime. Anyway, when it was over, all three of them came up and I tattooed all of them. And we discussed the idea of starting a museum for the Los Angeles area. And I said, well, why not Long Beach? Because it's the port of Los Angeles. And so they all kind of got the agreement that, yeah, that would be great. And so now we're just looking for worldwide support now to see it happen. And, I think most Americans would be glad to have a place to go to view this, because there's nothing, I'm not sure what the Smithsonian Institute has, but it's more than just, I'm sure it's probably got something there. I've never visited it and feel ashamed that I haven't, but because I'm interested in looking at all their Native American stuff. But one guy told me it takes a couple of weeks to really do it right, to view everything that's there,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm not saying this would be on that level, but we want it to be a nationally recognized place. That's where you go, to Long Beach, to that museum,
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea to get that going up too, because I was just recently at Carrie's shop a couple of weeks ago, and they've got the little museum section that they've got there, and even just looking through that, it was amazing to just kind of step back and see like where it all came from and how it's evolved.
Yeah, well, that's another good reason I think to have one there. It would also support her, or help support her shop, or it would be a mutual benefit for each other,
Right.
because the people that come to the museum would want to go see Bert Grimm's shop, also, well, Carrie Barber's shop now, but because of the history of it, and that's another thing we've discussed, whether or not to have tattooing on the site, on the museum. You have guest artists from all over the world working at the museum, but rather than maybe dealing with health departments and inspectors and licensing from all these foreign guys, maybe it just would be best to send everybody over to Carrie's shop, because any tattooer would be honored to work in that shop because of the history. And but we can't she's on the board, so we can't really have conflict. We can't have her benefiting financially, and so we'll figure it all out. I know one guy told me, he's real hip on the excellent businessman. He said, well, here's the thing, what you need to do is just tell him that the tattoo is an exhibit and exhibition of how tattooing is done, and then the recipient can just make a contribution to the museum that represents the cost of the tattoo.
Right.
Make a donation. So I don't know. We'll see. It'll all work out somehow.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with it.
Yeah, and Carrie, and she's all on board with it, of course, for sure, and willing to help. Well, I say she could be against it even, from the beginning. I didn't know, but I wanted her, out of respect, I asked her if she wanted to be on the board, because she's familiar with all those people, a lot of them in the city and so forth. And so anyway, I'm glad she's aboard. And I think we've got a pretty good bunch that represent the board, and we're talking about maybe expanding it a little bit more to involve a little more opportunity for development from different aspects, different people that have different connections and stuff. And so we don't know exactly how it's all going to end up yet, but we got some competent individuals certainly working on it now, trying to make it happen. So I believe it will, and I believe it can be a worldwide destination with the right presentation and so forth. I mean, there's enough money out there. You just got to find it.
Right, exactly. Well, on some closing notes then, if you just had one piece of advice to give to everyone that's in the next generation, trying to make it in this industry, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say good luck, because the competition is pretty fierce, but it seems to be that no matter what your style is or your operation even consists of in terms of convenience and all that, it just seems like no matter what you got going, you've got takers now. So I believe that everybody is going to make it that has anything to offer at all. It seems like you can get by. I mean, I can't believe some of the operations that exist, but it seems like the more you're exposed to what I would consider inferior tattooing, the more you're seeing highly developed art skills come along too. They're not all just slackers out there. There's plenty of real bona fide excellent artists coming into this business, and they treat it with respect and so forth. So I'm happy about that, because I'm glad that the ones who are actually performing in amazing ways are contributing that much, to keep the industry as well, I don't know, legit, I guess you'd say, as possible. Because these people that are just in it to burn the next guy for a couple of $100 to, make another drug deal or something, well, they're not going to last anyway, and might have a lasting impact on the business. They're just a flash in the pan, you might say. But anyway, the people that are interested, if they have a serious bone in their body, there's no reason why they can't make an excellent living in tattooing these days. If you're a respectable individual and just know how to treat your human, your fellow human with any kind of respect and dignity at all, and care about him maybe being a future customer, well, there's no reason why you can't make it anymore. But I remember Mike Malone used to tell him, as soon as they would ask him, so what advice would you give a young guy looking out to make a living in tattooing? He says, learn neon. Forget tattooing. There's too many already. He says, nobody does neon. Learn neon. That's an art form, and I know several. In fact, I myself, I guess, have said, well, you need to learn something else because everybody else is learning to tattoo or wanting to tattoo. Oh, my wife's not getting the phone here. Got it ringing, but well, anyway, I got disrupted there. I forget what I was saying now.
Okay.
Where was I going with that?
Just wherever you could take it. New people coming in.
Yeah, well, like I said, the ones that are destined to make it will make it, because you'd have to be quite incompetent not to figure out how to make a living tattooing today. So if you got anything on the ball, you're gonna figure it out and do okay,
All right.
providing that you're, on the up and up with people. That's what I was saying,
Yeah.
The right individual, right-minded individual will do well if he's given good medicine.
Yeah. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk, Charlie. It's been great.
And let's see what is tattoo heritage .com. I think that's it. Oh no, tattooheritage.org. That's where you go to eventually check out I think you can check out something now on the website for sure about the museum. And so there's a lot of information there as well. If you just go to our website.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to plug it in the description of this as well, so everyone can easily find it.
Okay, great.
All right,
Well,
great. Well, hey,
Kyle, I wish you well on your success in life.
thank you.
Yeah. And how long have you been? 8 months now you've been involved in this?
Yeah, I've been with Gabe and Guy doing this kind of work for about 8 months. For like the past 2 years, I've been seriously just working on my art skills, trying to get that going.
Yeah. Well, I hope you have many more years of fruit that you bear.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, well, nice talking with you and appreciate the time.
Yeah, likewise. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so fare thee well down the road.
Alrighty.